So, as the Texas Longhorns head into a weekend that will feature some of college football's top prospects, yesterday was a bit of a roller coaster ride for Longhorn fans everywhere. Not only did the Horns get a commitment, they lost a commitment and then watched more crystal ball predictions be inserted in favor of Texas Tech for a very talented wide receiver, 5-star Micah Hudson, in the state of Texas. Today, we need to talk about it all. We need to talk about the loaded weekend that Texas fans are looking forward to. We need to talk about the newest addition. And then, of course, we have got to ask the question, should Texas fans worry about where they currently sit in recruiting? Something we're going to address. But before we can, as always, y'all know the drill. I have got to hear from you. Give me a Y for yes or an N for no for whether or not you believe Texas fans need to worry about where they currently sit in recruiting. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Hit that bell notification. I do constant college football content. You don't want to miss any of it. And if you enjoyed the content, be sure to like and comment down below, as those interactions seem small. They are massive to content creators such as myself, and we are less than 800 subscribers away from our 20,000 subscriber mark, and I'd love to have you a part of this unbelievable community. But having said all that, let's jump right into this. And I want to start by answering the question I posed to all of you. I know, anticlimactic, but it is what it is. Should Texas fans worry about where they currently sit in recruiting? And to me, the answer is no. Texas currently sits with the number 62 recruiting class in the nation with 5 prospects. And look, if we were in August, if we were in September, maybe you start to feel a little bit uneasy. But we're currently in June. Visits are still happening. These prospects are wanting to take their time, enjoy their visits, go see what's out there, and then make their college decisions. It's not uncommon for us to see the month of July be absolutely filled with fireworks as some of the top prospects in all of high school football make their decisions. And so I think it's far too early for us to be concerned about where any team sits in recruiting. And this is a position that I have remained steadfast in no matter the team we're talking about. We are in June. There is nothing but time, space, and opportunity in front of teams everywhere, and particularly for a team like the Texas Longhorns, you have unlimited talent in your own state. The states adjacent to you have a lot of talent, such as a Louisiana, so it's not like Texas has to go far to try and find talent. The Texas Longhorns are on the move from the Big 12 to the SEC, something that I think will absolutely help their recruiting pitches, especially as they're recruiting against a Texas A&M. And the pitch that Texas A&M used to have on Texas was, well, we're in the SEC. If you want to play SEC football, there's only one Texas school you can go to. That's no longer the case. So I absolutely wouldn't be concerned in the slightest if I was a Texas Longhorn fan about where the Horns currently sit. If we get to October and the Texas Longhorns are outside the top 25 recruiting classes in the nation, we can have a conversation then. And even then, it may be as simple as, hey, some guys just haven't pulled the trigger yet, but it is way too early to be really concerned about where any team in the nation sits in recruiting. With that out the way, let's dive into all the names. And we're going to start with all the action yesterday, where the Horns got a commitment, they lost a commitment, and then watched crystal ball predictions be inserted in favor of Texas Tech for a very talented 5-star wide receiver in the state of Texas that the Longhorns want in Micah Hudson. And we'll start with the commitment they gained for a 4-star running back out the state of Arizona, Christian Clark, who stands 6 foot, 195 pounds, and comes in as the number 286 player in the nation, the number 23 running back, and the number 3 player in the state of Arizona. And I really like Christian Clark's game. Personally, I think he's a little bit underrated. And furthermore, whenever we look at what the Longhorns have been able to get out the state of Arizona, it's treated the Longhorns very well. Look, Choice is a top running back coach in the nation. He has got to be a guy that moves the needle whenever he walks into these living rooms to deliver his pitch. It has to move the needle. So I'm not surprised at all to see Texas continue running back recruiting success, and I think Christian Clark is a great get. They have another talented running back that will be visiting them this weekend that we will absolutely touch on. But they also lost a prospect in Hunter Modden, a top 100 prospect in the nation that 24/7 Sports has listed as both an athlete and a wide receiver. But whenever Texas lost this, it wasn't something that came as a massive surprise, as there had been rumors that this was coming down the pipe for quite some time. So this isn't something that took Texas fans by surprise, though at the end of the day, let's be honest, if you have a top 100 prospect that's committed in your class, you'd probably love to keep them because they are a very gifted player, they are a very talented football player, and you want talented football players in your class. But like I started this segment out with, It's June. It is way too early to start worrying about the ins and outs of recruiting just yet. And finally, before we fully turn our attention to the massive weekend Texas is hosting, we need to talk about Micah Hudson, the 5-star wide receiver, top 10 player in the nation, that crystal ball predictions are being inserted for none other than Texas Tech to land the very talented wide receiver. And this is a guy that Texas wants. And in fairness, if we look at how Steve Sarkisian has utilized the wide receivers, if you're a wide receiver, I'm not surprised at all whenever you're taking multiple visits to Texas. We know that Sarkisian offense is an offense that's going to get the ball to the playmakers and let them work. So whenever crystal ball predictions started to be inserted in favor of Texas Tech for Micah Hudson, Twitter went wild, and absolutely deservedly so. Look, if we look at 24/7 Sports rankings and look at the top prospects Texas Tech has landed, Micah Hudson would be the number one prospect they've ever landed. If we look at that 24/7 Sports list, he would be the only 5-star they've landed. So this would be a massive deal for Joey McGuire, Justin Johnson, and the Red Raiders. However, this reminds me a little bit of the situation we saw last year with Ruben Owens, where he looked like he was a lock between Texas or Texas A&M, ultimately commits to Louisville before ending up flipping. Now, am I saying that if Micah Hudson commits to Texas Tech, he will flip? Not at all. He could commit to Texas Tech, enroll at Texas Tech, ball out there, and then be a first-round draft pick. I'm not putting limitations on the possibilities here. I'm just saying last year we saw a 5-star prospect commit to a school such as a Louisville, and he didn't end up there. And Micah Hudson is a very gifted prospect. Every top institution in the nation wants him, and it's going to be tough for Texas Tech to keep that pitch up when Ohio State, Texas, Alabama, LSU continue knocking on that door, and they just point to the laundry list of production they've had at wide receiver. So that's something we're going to have to keep an eye out on. Finally, let's turn our attention to the loaded weekend that Texas Longhorn fans have been so looking forward to. A weekend that's featuring some of college football's top prospects, and the name we're going to start with is a name that would excite every Texas fan if he was to pull the trigger. And of course, we're talking about 5-star edge Colin Simmons, the number one edge in the nation and the number one player in the state of Texas. And look, there are several reasons why this commitment would excite Texas fans everywhere. First and foremost, he's a top 10 player in the nation and a 5-star, the number one edge and the number one player in the state of Texas. I feel like all that speaks for itself. But secondly, it's because this is a position of need, not only in terms of what they need for this class for the Longhorns, but also what they need for this defense to really take that next step forward. PK loves the Jack and X linebacker positions. Every time I talk about the edges, we go into a whole soliloquy about this, and I'm going to spare you. But if you're new to the channel, just know this is a position of premium for the Texas Longhorns, and there'd be no bigger win than a Colin Simmons. But he's not the only edge that's there. Zina Umazulu is there, a name that Texas fans are all too familiar with as his older brother currently plays for the Texas Longhorns. Now, that would be a big win, but the likes of the Oklahoma Sooners are also pushing very hard for Zina Umazulu, and one thing I always say, if you give me a battle where bitter rivals are going after the same prospect, sign me up. I'm there. I cannot wait to see what the end result is. So that's a battle we have to keep up with. So Texas is featuring several top-tier edges. Just last weekend, they had the 5-star edge Jordan Ross in attendance, and apparently they moved the needle there, something we're going to have to watch. So PK, Choate, these guys, they're really hitting the trail hard and trying to get some needs for this Texas defense. And if you're a Texas fan, that's exactly what you want to see. And we're going to stay on the defensive side of the football here and talk about a defensive back that I really like in the class of 2024. None other than 5-star defensive back Kobe Black, also in attendance for Texas. And this would be a huge win for Terry Joseph. Terry Joseph has been able to accrue some big-time pickups for the Longhorns, and Kobe Black would be the cherry on top. I think he is a tremendously gifted athlete. Whenever you turn on the film, you can see an undoubtedly high ceiling. And his high school team uses him in every single area of the game. Kick return, defensive back, wide receiver. I saw him taking the ball as a running back several times. That just shows you what an elite prospect this is. If the Texas Longhorns could get him and keep him in the state of Texas, that would be a fantastic win, one that I know would excite every Texas fan everywhere. But another cornerback we have got to talk about, a cornerback that goes to the same high school as Micah Hudson, Selman Bridges. And this is one of the most intriguing prospects in the class of 2024 to me. He stands 6'3", 160 170 pounds. So he has got the length that every college in the nation is looking for at the defensive back position, as that has been a major trend, not only in college football, but in the NFL, to get your defensive backs to have that length. The thing is Selman Bridges is not diminishing any athletic ability at 6'3" to play defensive back. He is a freakish athlete, one I know Texas fans are super excited is there. But speaking of a prospect Texas fans are very excited is visiting, we've got to talk about Dominic McKinley, the 4 or 5-star defensive lineman, depending on where you look, from the state of Louisiana. And if you were asking me the biggest needs for Texas in this class, defensive line would absolutely be one of them, especially with the move to the SEC on the horizon. You can never have too much depth along the trenches, because that's just kind of what the league calls for. And Dominic McKinley is a name that Texas fans would love to add in, but it is not going to be easy. LSU is after the very talented defensive lineman. Oklahoma after the very talented defensive lineman. And we talk about the Texas Longhorns having a need at interior defensive line. So too do the Oklahoma Sooners. So they are approaching every single one of these interior defensive linemen and throwing everything they can because they know the need they have in front of them. So this battle for Dominic McKinley is absolutely going to be one we have to watch. I love Bo Davis. I think Bo Davis is one of the premier defensive line coaches in the nation, and I think the results speak for themselves whenever we look at his career. But at the same time, we have got to acknowledge how difficult it can be lifting prospects from Louisiana. Is it impossible? Absolutely not my contention. Is it difficult? 100%. Because Louisiana only has one major brand in their state that can vie for all these top-tier recruits, which is LSU. They all grow up watching LSU, dreaming of playing for LSU. All is a little bit of a stretch, but you get the point I'm trying to make here. There's more than one major brand in the state of Texas. There are several major brands in the state of Texas pulling these recruits every which way, depending on where they are in the region of the state. It's not the case in Louisiana. There's LSU. And so now whenever you're in Oklahoma, whenever you're at Texas battling in LSU, it's always really fun to watch, but it is a difficult battle to try and lift prospects from the state of Louisiana. So this is going to be one we have to watch. Earlier in the video, I said that we'd talk about another running back. What about Jarek Gibson, the running back from IMG visiting Texas, and a guy that Texas fans have wanted for quite some time, and crystal ball predictions have been inserted in favor of the Longhorns for quite some time. And this would be a massive win. Jarek Gibson is very talented. I expect Choice will take more than one running back, as that kind of seems to be a trend in college football now, where if you can take two guys, you absolutely do so, and you don't ask questions. And if the Texas Longhorns could end this recruiting cycle with Christian Clark and Jarek Gibson, I think they'd be over the moon with what they were able to get at the running back position. So this is an intriguing weekend for the Texas Longhorns. It's great to build on the momentum that they established last weekend, and backing that up with back-to-back huge weekends could produce great results for the Longhorns whenever these guys start pulling the trigger on their commitment. Something we're going to have to watch. But hop down to the comments, let me know what you're thinking. That's it. See ya.